Hi, welcome to another episode of I Mustache You Something. I've got my twin, I guess, in many ways. Like I don't know if you guys have seen the conversation with Paul Kist, who is a brother that I sort of grew up with, and Mike is a long lost, separated at birth twin brother. We're like, oh, you oh, you do that? Oh, that's weird. I thought I was the only one who did that. Oh, oh, you thought of that? Oh, I thought that was just a weird idea.
Yeah,
So
and oh no, where's the adult in the room?
well, let's do two things. One, uh, let's um, let's tell them the story of when you realized that I was just the less responsible version of you. Like, tell us the moment that you were like, oh no.
Yeah, yeah. I even have a prop. It was the passport moment
Yeah,
when we were sitting in the Turkish airport, realizing that this might be our new home for the foreseeable future, for reasons that we won't get into. I mean, the whole story would take the whole mustachio, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I
and
guess the high points are we went to the gate, they told us to leave, so we did.
Yeah,
We came back, which we thought was a reasonable frame of time, and they closed the gate.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Ruffians.
I
Ruffians.
mean, there are scenes you can cut to where we're smashing on the door and crying, but we don't need to get into
No.
details.
And then we negotiated our way onto a
It,
flight, which was supposed to be $1,000 each and
mhm.
only cost us €10, which was the price of the box of chocolates that we used to bribe the guy.
Bribe, befriend, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, yeah. But
I
but
won't mention the man's name, but let's say it was Fred. Fred, do you like chocolate? No. Does your wife like chocolate? Uh, yes. Here you go. This is for your wife.
whatever works.
But
But
yeah,
yeah,
in the process of all that, um, I think we had to take our passports out like I don't know, like 46 times.
yeah, we should just wear them around our neck.
Honestly, like I definitely need to be one of those lanyard kids that walks around
Yeah,
the airport. Like I need to be on flight X at this time. If you see me like eating a cheeseburger, like please walk me over to my gate. Like there needs to be that absolutely.
be kind. Yeah.
But yeah, you realized, oh, I was depending on this guy. Like, where's my passport? Okay. And you did like you like your eyes changed and you're like just
Yeah, yeah. I am the passport holder now.
yeah just I'll
Look at
hold
me.
on to that. Give me that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and
And the next
recently,
time this happened was the preceding flight, where in the span of 5 minutes somehow you lost your phone and your passport and your glasses and your headphones, and I didn't even know who to talk to. I don't I and yeah, the plane was empty. It was just us. I, yeah, we've learned
that's
a
right.
lot.
I asked you. I was like, "Can you help me find my glasses?" And you're like, "How did you lose your glasses? We've only been on here for 2 minutes." I'm like, "I don't know. I tried to switch seats and I went over there and I don't know if it went under the chair, but I couldn't find it." And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, "Hey, look, I found my phone." And you're like, "Wait, I thought we were looking for your glasses." I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't know that I lost my phone, but I was looking for the glasses in the seat and you know, I
It's gonna
found
be one hell of a lanyard. A feedback of stuff.
there's like a brain inside. Like they're like no, 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 no. Just put
Is
it
this
in.
what you want? No, no, no.
Just put it in there so it doesn't spill out of his ears.
No.
So yeah, we have many. I think some good, but many terrifying qualities
Yeah.
in common that, you know, it happens.
Complementary, terrifying. Yeah.
So I think we've talked about this before, but I think it's an interesting topic of conversation. And you know the answer to this question. Like if your mom is talking to me and I tell her, I don't think you realize how similar me and Mike are. Like we're like twins. What is her response? It's a very simple thing. Like, no, you're not like Mike. You're blank.
Married. Yeah.
Man,
And it's really her response to anything pertaining to me. Did you go grocery shopping today? How? You're not married. Like, yeah, you're right. I didn't realize that. I didn't think of that. Yeah. So it's on the top
so
of my
now you're going to fall into the same category as Paul, where I have to send you this file for you to bleep yourself.
ugh, yeah, yeah. But I want to tell you how proud I am that I am in the same category of anything related to Paul.
Yes, you are both in the category of people that are the banes of my existence, where everyone else says, "Oh, Mina has enough things to worry about, enough work to do that he doesn't need to go back and bleep me because I don't know how to regulate my language."
You know, anything that aggravates you gives me joy. So I don't know how to deal with this. I'll do my best.
Honestly, like I really hope you know how to bleep things because I don't, and we're not going to air it without the bleep. Uh, so again, speaking of similarities to Paul, I think all of us share, and you know, I discussed this with Paul, and hopefully you had some chance to listen to that. The sort of the norms in our community. One
Mhm.
of many of which is this marriage thing, right? Where it's like, oh, why haven't you checked this box?
Mhm.
And you're like, what do you mean? Like, I just didn't really want to.
Mhm.
Oh, it's okay. And it's like, what do you mean it's okay? Like
Child.
I didn't feel bad about it until you brought it up. So how do you respond to that, right? Where like you and I feel very similar and we just happen to make, you know, incrementally small different decisions where yes, I end up being married and end up having kids and it's great. And you decided no, like there wasn't someone that you wanted to marry. So rather than being married and miserable, you decided to be unmarried and happy, which sounds crazy. Like it sounds like, whoa, you should either be married and happy or married and miserable. Either way, like marriage is the choice you make as a
Yes.
Coptic person. Like plenty of people are married and miserable. Why didn't you want to be one of them?
I feel like it's more lonely to be with the wrong person than to be alone. And that was such a liberating realization I had after so many relationships that I was just trying too hard to make work, just to check that box to make mom and dad proud for the first time. And no matter what you do, no matter, it's well as until you're married, then you become a human, a normal functioning human. But it doesn't end there. I'm sure it's after that, once you have a child and then a puppy. I don't know. But you know, you do the things, and I'm sure it's this biological need. It may not be so cultural. It's just this like inherent need to have the genes live on. And I respect that. I get it, but that doesn't mean I have to do it. And having a healthy relationship with that and being able to stand with it is a practice, right? When I did my brother's best man speech at his wedding, I started off with this. I said, "Yalla, let's do a collective belak. Just let us get it out of our system, and then we can move on and have some fun." And leaning into it is a bit cathartic, and takes that power away from that need to satisfy the other. and just kind of live. And all the things I've always waited to do all my life, all my passions, like sailing, until I was settled and had someone to share it with. I'm so glad I didn't wait. I've been able to explore this world and myself in terms of like what I'm capable of, and how I can just kind of go right to the edge of my fears and capabilities, and do that on my own. And I've learned so much, and I'm so grateful for that time.
So you realize you're not the only one who got a belek that day, right? Do you know your
Yeah.
brother on his wedding day? Ask him. I guarantee you, what belek did he get?
Ah, the kids.
عقبال
Yeah.
الولاد. And then you have the kids.
Yeah.
عقبال مش عارف ايه. And then the kids graduate. عقبال ايه. And it's
Yeah.
like, can we just enjoy this thing?
Right.
Like,
Right.
this is a wedding. Happy. Let's enjoy ourselves. Why do we need to think of like kids are great? I love my kids. They're
Yeah.
awesome. Like, 1, 2, 3, they're awesome. But why are we always looking to the next thing instead of enjoying this thing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's the risk of hope. Hope we put on this pedestal of something that we do. What about the now? What about being satisfied? It's don't get me wrong, it's good to dream, but if you're living in the hope, you're not here. And they say, what is it? If you worry about tomorrow, it's anxiety. Worry about yesterday, it's depression. And the solution is now. God lives in the now. Love lives in the now. Being present and um, uh, really immersing yourself in the moment with anyone in front of you or any task in front of you is is so powerful.
And I think we can understand to a certain extent why people coming from an environment where they were oppressed and where the opportunities weren't the same, that I mean it's normal in that kind of environment to be the theological term would be eschatological thinking, like okay,
Mm-hmm.
like when we think about eternity and when we think about heaven and we think about God saves us in the future because
Mm-hmm.
the present is so hard. I think that's a reasonable mindset. But then you leave Egypt and you go to a place where you have more opportunity, you have more flexibility. There isn't this like do or die mentality.
Mm-hmm.
You have the opportunity to have a different interpretation of that eschaton, right? Instead of just waiting for God to save in the future, hey,
Mm-hmm.
hey, 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 this is actually pretty good. So, how do you think that's going to evolve for our community and for the next generation here? Because there's a benefit, right? There's like a tangibility, and there's like a, a a strength
Mm-hmm.
in that faith in God that God will deliver. But
Mm-hmm.
how do you reinterpret that into the present?
Yeah, I think it is that freedom of choice that's so powerful, because it's not a need. It's something you can explore for yourself. And don't get me wrong, that struggle is special. It does bring people together, and that's beautiful. I mean, you can't get things done back home in Egypt without your community, without your family, and that is beautiful in its necessity. But once you take that away, then you've got to kind of take charge of where to go from there, and that can lead you in some dangerous territory if you're not careful, if you don't respect that anonymity, and that power of being able to kind of choose your own path and where that might lead you, the uncertainty of that destination, and being comfortable in that uncertainty is a daily practice, right? It's something that uh, is going to come up no matter what. We have this. security theater we surround ourselves with, right? We have these for our lives that make us feel comfortable, that we know what the outcome will be, when in reality we know nothing. And all we can do is our best every moment to kind of reflect and uh, connect with our community to support us, um, and be comfortable in that uncertainty, and almost thrive in it, right? And that takes a lot of trust, and confidence, and letting go, and that's not easy.
So someone who legitimately, like in their reality, letting go would mean certain death and failure,
Mm.
right? How um, how does that person leave that environment, go to a new environment where letting go actually becomes something
Liberating.
that could be liberating and freeing and actually more successful?
Right, right. And that ancestral fear is the first thing you've got to let go of, right? It's the what was it, Pink Floyd? They have this awesome lyric in the wall. Uh, uh, it's the song titled "Mother," and she'll put her fears into you, and that's such a powerful line, right?
Right.
And such a real concept that we all live, and that's mom's job. I mean, she wants to make sure, and to do so, she's got to give you those guardrails that she worries about. Uh, but at some point, it's up to us to say, okay, thank you. I appreciate you pointing that out, and I'm gonna be okay. And I get it. But I'm gonna design my own guardrails in life, and design my own principles, rather than these confining rules that we've set up to protect each other, and do our best to live by those principles, and update them, and share them, and grow together. And that diverse community we surround ourselves with can really, really be nurturing, and empowering both ways. And I really love and appreciate my group of friends and family members that surround me, and really nurture and build my ability to do so, without judgment, without personal objectives, um, and that can be just like this constant evolution and discovery that we can all pursue, which is really beautiful.
So what you're not saying is that we kind of go do our own thing, and you keep using the word community, and I think that someone who's unfamiliar with this idea of being yourself thinks that, oh, I'm going to go be myself in isolation, right?
Mm.
I am going to explore, and I'm going to be open to the possibility of making a mistake, or you know I have left this environment that it
Mm.
really is a matter of life and death. Like if I don't go 120%, then I have no chance. And even if I go 120%, I might still fail. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly under this pressure to over succeed just to even have a chance. Right. And we're
Hmm.
saying there's a shift, right? In a land of more opportunity. No, you can take some risks and you can maybe fail, right? There's this assumption that أنا هعمل في دماغي. Like I don't want to listen to anybody. I don't want to be part of a community.
Hmm.
I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the church, and I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. But
Yeah.
I don't hear you saying that, right? You're trying to strike this balance between exploring, but you keep using community. So
Yeah.
talk us through how you can be an individual that's still part of a community.
Yeah, and it's a huge spectrum, right? when we graduate from our uh, living within our household, we're suddenly on our own, and this idea of independence is sold to us, especially here in the United States, where we're striving for that. We're striving to pay our own bills and our rent and childcare, and it takes away from our, because it's not even our goal. Our goal is to be stand up on our own 2 feet, and that has a lot to do with how capitalism has kind of taught us that that is our individual goal, to stand up on our own. You can sell more microwaves that way, right? If everyone's got one. Um, but but you're right. To strike that balance is it's a lifelong practice. Letting the right people in, designing your community around your values and people that are supportive and don't take more energy from you than is that mutual balance is super important. And you have that opportunity as soon as you graduate from high school, essentially. You can start to explore how that makeup is. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right?
Hmm.
And um, it's something that you've got to be really mindful of. What that community you surround yourself, the religious community, the friend community, and work, because that has a lot of influence that you may not take on, but also balancing out that who you are, and who you choose to be that day, right? The most I feel dangerous, and this like strict perspective on thyself and your likes and your preferences, without re-examining that constantly. One day you might love Brussels sprouts, and does that make you a different person, or is that just an evolution of um, who you who've chosen to be that day? And you can wake up every morning and choose and reflect and on what's worked and what doesn't, and how things feel, and and that moment of reflection, meditation, prayer, however you choose to kind of practice, and that can change and evolve also. But that is how we are able to kind of um, form those principles and ideals and preferences about ourselves with an open mind, an open heart, uh, and then check in with others rather than harboring them for ourselves and saying, well, this is, I have to protect me, because if I expose this, I risk um, the chance of it in changing me, and that is, it's an unfortunate fear that once we get over, we are again liberated by whatever we want to kind of explore that day. A new instrument, a new hobby, a new profession, a new way to connect with friends on a different level, that might bring us closer, and that constant reflection um, is just a necessity, right?
So, at what point does um, stability and comfort and groundedness um, become something that is valued over new and exploring?
Hmm, that's a great question, and it's a balance that I'm striving for. I travel a bunch, but during Corona I was kind of stuck here for a little bit, and I realized, hey, I really need to invest in me and this space that I'm creating for myself. Um, and I think that's really important in so many different parts of life. You can kind of go about sampling all day, different hobbies, and just be dangerously proficient, like you out on the water in a boat, and and as we kind of get more immersed into something, we realize how much we don't know about it, and how much respect we should have for the open ocean, and all the things we need to practice. So I I liked so they say there's different types of people, in terms of adrenaline. There's someone who can think about a cliff and get like an 8 out of 10 adrenaline rush. The next person might need to see it in front of them. Might need to stand somewhere on that cliff to get that 8 out of 10. Uh, I'm the kind of person who just wants to curl their toes over the edge, knowing I'm not going to jump. I'm perfectly safe, but I'm right on the edge of my comfort zone. Now, the person after me needs to jump and go hand gliding, and maybe someday, but um, constantly challenging yourself to be uncomfortable is such a fun, and it's such a great teacher, and it brings and you learn so much about yourself and what you're capable of every year. With sailing, I try to take myself to that edge where I know I'm going to be safe. I'm doing everything right. I'm learning how to anchor and stay the night and be at peace with that uncertainty, but I'm certain that I've done it correctly. And then the next year go a little bit further and a little bit more, to the edge of my comfort zone. And I've been able to grow so much in life from those lessons on the water. So stability is purely a foundation of experience, right? And wherever you may be in life, that that edge, um, is something that you can and should explore, because there's nothing more dangerous than being comfortable.
Say that again.
Uh, st-
The last the last 7 words you said.
there's nothing more dangerous than being comfortable. Yeah.
One more time.
There is nothing more dangerous than being comfortable and complacent and stagnant. Yeah.
I think like if I don't think I have much of a tunt audience, but I think that like if there's like even 2 tunts that listen to this, they go
Don't
like,
tell mom.
like oh I'm sending this to your parents by the way.
Oh God.
Right.
I'm sorry,
Like
mama.
like the first people they're like, oh Habibi Michael.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that they're gonna be like, what do you mean there's nothing more dangerous than being comfortable? Like I I mean that's a very strong statement.
Mm, mm.
So are you willing like you said it 3 times, so the cognitive dissonance is going to be challenging to overcome to disagree
Mm.
with yourself. But how would you disagree with yourself if you're going to walk that back a little, or would you even?
I think it's a challenge, for myself, that I put forth, with everything I do. And as soon as things are becoming routine, um, there's nothing wrong with a routine, and I think it's healthy to have those tenets in your life, those pillars. But those are just foundational. They're not something you strive for. I think where you strive is where you grow, right? Where you explore the unknown, that 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 area of is this going to work out? But not doing so, with complete disregard for your health and safety of those around you. Absolutely not. Um, Doing so uh, with um, that mindset of um, challenging yourself and those around you is can be a really beautiful exploration. It can be. Uh, I think it's the only time we really create memories. Your brain, our brains have this innate ability to kind of have muscle memory, right? When it's not really your muscles that remember anything. It's those pathways. You're not going to remember tying your shoes. You're not going to remember making the same cup of coffee and the same. You're going to remember those little blips of things that were different that day. Those things that you couldn't predict. Those are the things that are going to stand out and be um, uh, valuable to reflect on. Good or and inevitably you'll learn if you take that moment to say, how did that go? Did I like that? Did that have any impact, positive or negative, on anyone else? And unless you're allowing yourself for that uncertainty, for that discomfort, uh, you're and to each their own. You're gonna stay in that pattern and kind of. I think they call it arrested development. Great show, but not a great place to be.
So you and I both read Culture Code,
Yeah.
and it talks about the two types of cultures.
Mm.
So it sounds like the culture of creativity is the one that you value,
Mm.
almost as a universal.
Yeah, yeah. I think and it's uh it's a really fun place to be.
But there is the other. I forget what was the other one. The culture of
um
excellence, or like the culture of predictability, something like that. It was the culture
right.
of, like, how do we get this one thing that we're doing,
Yeah.
and not do it a new way that's better, but do it this way consistently,
Hmm.
right?
There's
Like,
beauty in that. Totally. Yeah.
you
And
know,
I
where is that in your paradigm?
it's that for me just becomes the foundation every day. Like when we're new application process for Koinonia microlending, it's how do we stabilize this and keep the engine moving. But I'm never going to stop thinking about how do we improve this. I can't physically do that. But that's something that I'm working on to be uh, satisfied and uh, appreciate that things are going well, and let's take a step back, rejoice, appreciate, and um, let things take their course before we're ready to change again, and be creative. Those things can sit in a backlog somewhere, um, and when we're ready to take another step forward, we can and should. But getting it right, practicing and hitting that stride, that is a beautiful thing. And that is, in my opinion, the goal of that creative venture, right? How do you make that the new standard where um, your baseline just gets bumped up, and you get to explore from that new place. So I think they go hand in hand. But too much of either is disturbing. It's um, unnerving and can be dangerous, I think. Yeah.
So here's where I mustache you something.
What must you ask me?
I think it's clear that you favor the culture of creativity.
Mm,
And someone else that's listening might favor the culture of stability. Again, I forget what culture
yeah.
code refers to it at, but we understand that, like, in one culture we're trying to innovate, and in the other one we're trying to stabilize and just sort of be more regular. I think it's hard for you to speak to someone that's just wired differently,
Mm,
right? Somebody that's wired in a, sort of a stability mindset. They have a lot to learn from you, but they need to make that jump, right? And they need to make that decision to say, like, okay, like, I I'm done locking myself in the basement. I need to,
mm,
explore some risks here.
yeah.
And you're not going to be able to talk them into it. But how do you speak to a younger version of yourself, or even yourself now as this work in progress, to say, like, hey, like, there's something to be said for a culture of stability?
Mm. Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more. There is so much I can and uh, am learning from folks who uh, revel in that stability. Uh, there's a beautiful pause that I can and should learn to have in my life, where I can be surrounded by things that I am yearning to change, that I see uh, endless possibilities with, and just take a breath and accept what is without letting go of what could be, but not focused on that. It's again that paradox of hope we talked about earlier, right? And that is like exactly what I'm working on now, because there is so much peace there. There's stillness and acceptance and love for the reality in front of us, and accept and that uh that what is that called, being a realist. And accepting things for what they are, because until you do that, you cannot imagine what they could be. Until you uh, and until you understand and settle with what is, how can you imagine something else? Because your foundation is not based in reality, right? Quite simply. And it's a great place to start. Are beautiful, but until they reconcile with the reality around them, um, it's an endless quest and a
Do you feel like
non-starter.
sometimes there's an escapism
Mm,
that, I think when you're unwilling to face the reality, right? When
mm,
you're saying, like, realism is looking and saying this is what is, and saying, okay, how do we optimize for sure, but also accept, right?
yeah,
And looking for somewhere else to be creative sometimes is the answer to being, not accepting of that reality.
yeah,
um, and I think you and I can both um, relate to both situations, right? Like, the forget this, like, I don't want to deal with this, I'm going to go find something else to do.
mm-hmm,
And the, well, no, like, this is worth doing, like, we're gonna stick it out.
yeah,
um, and nobody's going to make the right call every time to say like, oh, I always stay and stick it out and I always like walk away. No. But like, there are times I think we both can say we just took a mental health break and walked away for something.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point does that become something that's legitimate? And at what point is that escapism and not being able to tend to that reality?
Absolutely, escapism can be dangerous. But the flip side to that is starting from a blank page and saying, what could be? You know, we see this right now in the Black Lives Matter movement, where they're not they're not saying, let's start with this system that has been passed down from generation to generation. They're saying, nah, this is built on things that are unacceptable. We need to start over, and we need to rethink this from scratch. That is a really important activity, right? To imagine what could be, and then back into it, and that takes a bit of a balance and a bit of humility to say, okay, we've imagined this new reality. Now, how do we get there? Because you can't get there from somewhere you're not starting from, which is where you are. If that made any sense. And that's a hard pill to swallow for dreamers. But it's it's something we face, you know, and it's something we need to accept, and not accept at the same time, right? Um, and kind of hold that dream and that vision in our mind as we build towards it together.
So talk us through how you think we were able to do that for KV. So you mentioned Koinonia Ventures, which is the diocese charity that you and I, have been working on for several years now. Like I think
Yeah.
we just hit our 3-year anniversary. Um, it's definitely exactly what you're saying, where there's this vision of like how could it be, and
Hmm.
then there's the reality of how it is, and then
Yeah.
it's like, okay, how do we how do we connect those two?
Right.
And I think that we've had our fair share of like decent successes, and we've had our fair share of, man, like like this is hard,
Yeah.
right? And I think for someone who's a pure creative, that is just like, no, like we always like, again, you get untethered from this reality where it's like, no, like we have to do this and we have to do that, but it becomes impractical, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
um so that's how I know for sure that you're not a pure creative, because I mean, you show up and you do the work, and when things are tough, you don't just say like, oh well, let's just start from scratch. Let's just do another microloan charity. It's like, no. Like, we're not gonna.
The thought has crossed our minds.
Like,
Yeah.
let's work with this one. Let's make this one
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
so how do you think that you were able to put yourself in a position where, again, if your tendency is to create, that
Hmm.
you were able to put yourself in a position to grow roots? And we've had this conversation about like, you're not ever going to always be a free person that can like, and you choose what things to tether yourself to. You say, no,
Hmm.
like i I don't want just pure freedom from, I benefit and I coexist by being tethered to something.
Hmm.
And I still remember the day where you're like, Mina, I'm not going anywhere. Like, this thing is something that we worked on and something that we care about, and I'm committed to it. And I remember being like, okay, like this is good. This is good. Okay, like, because if I like, if you walk, like, I don't know, what we do. So,
Mm,
even if things aren't meeting your expectations, getting that commitment, right? That
mm,
like marriage, that like, putting the ring on, like your mom wants, but
yeah,
to an organization is something that I knew was hard for you. But
yeah,
how were you able to wrap your head around that?
yeah. That's a great question, and it wasn't. It's not easy, and I credit our team for checking me on that and saying, hey, let's take a moment and celebrate that we got to 45 part. Who would have thought in just a few years? And kind of reflect on what's working and how we can how there is comfort with our field agents, with our micro lending partners, with our team in that stability, and to really get into that rhythm and that hum. And it feels good to just kind of pump it out. I mean, just this morning we approved 4 different applications, and we're able to do that because we started in a very innovative place and settled in a great rhythm. But there's also this humility that needs to come with it, this flexibility, that we need to battle our own privileged savior mindset of we know the answers, we're going to bring you the model that's going to make you successful. Mm-mm. I did some work in the past, with some nonprofits and worked with the USAID. And one of the funniest unfortunate things that I saw firsthand was it was such a rigorous process to get funded by that organization that by the time you got there, you no longer the on the ground uh, participants didn't need that anymore. And it was like, oh, well, you don't want this money? Like, oh, well, yeah, we want the money, but you don't need to do this thing. No, we don't need to do it. But if that's the only way for us to continue to engage with you, then I guess, we'll do this. And then I saw other funders that said, hey, this is an umbrella fund. You tell us what makes a difference for you, what will move the needle for your community. And that's what I'm really proud of with KV, empowering the individuals to decide for themselves what works, how they can excel in life, how to spend their money, how to grow their business with our humble support, with what we've learned from other partners in the field, with what we've learned from the MBAs and professors that we have here as guidelines, as principles. But every time we see a new application, seeing it for an individual that has their own hopes and dreams and talents, and asking ourselves, is is this good for them? And how do we empower them to grow? And how do we challenge them to get a little go about a little past their comfort zone, so they have the opportunity to do that and support them and say, no matter what, we're here for you. If we have to close shop and reopen, completely reinvent your business plan, we got your back. We're not here to make money. We're here to support your growth and thriving in life. And that is such a rewarding, beautiful um, privilege that we have, to be involved and support in that journey with our partners in need, and and to constantly check ourselves and explore how we can do that differently is always in the back of my mind. How we can excel and how we can support better and how we can help them understand different mechanisms that are foreign even to us, like having a savings plan and depreciation. Like, who thinks about this stuff? Um, but it's been a really really exciting journey, and we have such an incredible team that's taken us beyond our wildest dreams when you and I first sat down at that coffee shop and said,
I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. Like, should we like we should have them pay some of the money back, right? Like, should we do interest? No, I don't think so. Do you know anything about this? No, not really. Not really.
I read
Uh,
this book, and I know
uh,
this guy named Danny, and he seems
yeah,
to know a lot.
yeah, let's have Danny read like 18 books and report back.
I know Danny. And he did.
I can't wait to talk to Danny. I've got Danny scheduled for this weekend,
Oh,
and
man.
I don't know if he's gonna smile the whole time. He's like Danny, like focus شوية بابا. But then he'd be like, I read 47 books. Only 30 of them said smiling has any value. So the 17 books that did say that you shouldn't smile, I found more compelling. Okay.
Oh, God. I love that kid.
No, I think you and he are interesting bookends of like the creative culture and the stability culture.
Yin and yang. We need each other.
No, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Hmm.
Um, well, this has been enlightening as always. Thank you. Um, I think I think you've as always taught me something, and hopefully the people listening in were able to appreciate how much uh, you think about these calculated risks that we take to be creative. Um, and I think that you talk about the adrenaline rush of curling your toes over the edge of the cliff, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I see your adrenaline rush being 10 times that sitting in a room with the business partners when we go visit.
Oh my God. I just got shivers.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, like that, like you don't need to curl your like it's
I
like,
can't
oh
imagine.
yeah, remember the group meeting when Romani got the box of chocolates to celebrate his wedding,
Habibi. Yeah.
and he's like, oh, I couldn't have been prepared to do the wedding without the project and the financial stability that the project gave me, and we're like,
I'm not crying. You're crying.
and I don't. It's easy to jump over a cliff.
Hmm.
It's hard to take
Mm.
years to build an organization that gives you an adrenaline rush that's 10 times more than that.
Yeah.
That yes, requires creativity, but requires stability. It requires how can we think outside the box to do this, but you still got to show up and you still got to, put in the hours, and you got to, there's no like ultimate freedom. There's, freedom to be tethered, right? Like
Mm.
you choose to be like, all right, we're going to grind this out. We're going to keep visiting. We're going to keep trying. We're going to keep failing. We're going to keep saying, okay, well, I don't like this, but do we have an alternative? And to coexist, like you said, in that tension of like, you know, yeah, and then like
Mhm.
you're constantly um, struggling with whether or not to change,
Yeah.
and you know, continually being open to the feedback of the environment and feedback of the team and feedback of what's coming back to kind of recalibrate how we're doing things as individuals and as an organization, like constantly.
It's a healthy tension, and I hope we keep it.
Man, you are like, and this, like you haven't just pulled the organization in that direction, you've pulled me in that direction, which I appreciate.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm honored to challenge you a fraction of what you've challenged me. And I will continue to
Uh,
do so.
any parting words, my friend? Any parting wisdom for Tunt, who happens to be listening to this and didn't hang it up and turn it off when And what was that line again? You said nothing. There's nothing more dangerous than being comfortable. Like,
Don't tell my mom. That's
oh,
all I gotta say.
I can't wait. I can't wait to get in trouble for you saying that. I'm like, I didn't say it. He said it. I didn't say it. He said it. I don't know how else to tell you. I didn't tell him to say that. Like, I don't give him a script. Like, he says whatever in his head.
This is how she found. This is the same way she found out how when I went skydiving. I sat her down. I put in the cassette tape. Yeah, there was cassette tapes back then, and we watched the television together. And she goes, "Oh, that's you. What's going on?" And there's a plane. Runs around the house.
He knows you're okay. You're okay. You're okay.
I'm sitting right next to her.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm okay. I'm here. It's me. I'm here. It's okay. It's me. I'm here. I'm okay. Doesn't matter.
No, no.
So I guess for your mom, your dad, and whoever else happens to stick around this long, any parting wisdom for them?
I love and appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you all for listening.